The M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, or the HIMARS or HIMARS, is a wheeled MLRS used by the US Army and the US Marine Corps. However, it has gained quite the following given that the Ukrainians are using it to great effect in the current Ukrainian war. Today we look at the kit by Trumpeter, and as always, we would be taking a look at the parts, the sprues, and any feedback and comment along the way. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, we have the set of sprues here. And if you look at this one, you can see that this builds up most of the top part of the chassis, especially where the rocket pods are supposed to be. As you can see here, this would be where all of these top parts right here are mounted. And these ones right here are the sides of the chassis in general. Upon closer inspection, you can see that there is quite a fair amount of detailing right here and also here with the wiring. For the chassis, you can see all the surface details right there, nicely molded in. Here you have additional parts for the rocket launcher. You have here the front and back end of the cartridge that you see the HIMARS uses. The rest of these other parts right here are for the crane on which the HIMARS can self-load the rocket cartridge and begin firing once again. And then for this next sprue, you can see that some of these parts are for the cabin or the interior of the HIMARS, while the others are for the external parts. If I'm not mistaken, these are for the lights that you'd see on top of the windshields of the HIMARS. They have here the steering wheel, some of the seats, the windshield wipers, and curiously enough, you also have a 50 cal right here. Moving along with these sprues, you can see some parts of the suspension. You have the spring leaf right here and also here, and more additional parts for the chassis and the suspension. Next off, you have here the wheel assembly and also other parts for the suspension. As you can see there, the detailing quite nicely done. Then also here. Going over to this set of sprues, you can see more interior and also exterior detailing. You have here the snorkel, the exhaust. If I'm not mistaken, more parts of the chassis. Here you have the front lower end of the cabin. You also have the fuel tanks, connectors, and other external parts for the HIMARS. Next off, you have yet another pieces of the main chassis, then also other parts for the assembly. The kit does highly detail the chassis, so a lot of these parts would be going to the assembly itself, as you can see right there and also here. The molding of the parts is quite nice as the surface details are well defined. Next off, we have more of the exterior. This one is predominantly for the cabin. You have the front, you have the doors here. This would be the interior of the cabin. Some of the front panels that you would see inside the cabin. For these ones right here, if I'm not mistaken, these are the cases that you would see on the sides of the rocket launcher system of the HIMARS. Upon closer inspection, you can see quite the amount of detailing they put into the mold right there. Now for these sprues, you might notice that this right one has styrofoam cover to it, although you might not be able to see it properly against the light, but there are some fine pieces right here, so they did add this for protective covering, just so that they don't break. But I could say that most of these parts are for, yet again, the chassis, as there are areas, especially for the spring leaf suspension. Now next, we have, yet again, more external details and also parts for the chassis and the undercarriage. Not a lot going on right there. Do be careful when cutting out these parts as well. The next stuff, we have a few more major parts. These ones, if I'm not mistaken, go onto the crane loading system of the launcher. Now for this, I'll just leave in the plastic first. But here you have the decals, the markings for the HIMARS, tactical markings, as well as interior and some exterior markings. You have the photo etched. As you can see, fortunately, there's not a lot to use, just some particular parts for particular areas. Next, here would be the rocket cartridge itself. Here are the main tubes right here, and also the casings. Additionally, you have the clear parts for all the lights, the headlights, and also warning signals, as well as the windshields and windows for the cabin. This part right here, if I'm not mistaken, is part of the instrument that goes just directly behind the cabin and a little offset by the snorkel. Next, you have the cabin right here. The front details, the ones protruding right there, is faithfully reproduced. You have a hatch that goes right here. As you can see, the door here. Interior is pretty barren, unless of course you put the floor and all the panels that have to go here. Trumpeter also uses rubber tires for this, and on closer inspection, you can see that there is a fair amount of detailing for them. Lastly, I have the instruction, the color call out, and also some marketing pamphlets. You have here a pamphlet for master tools, and then this one is a few key points of their kit. You have the decal, the PE, then also you have here a rendering of the kit. Here are some of the details, the accurate cabin interior, the steering system, the seats, and then also the dashboard. Also here you have the call out for the launcher and also rocket cartridge. You can see this is the assembled one, and also the launcher system, launcher and loading system, and also how it can be positioned. Another detail here is the air cleaner and snorkel device. To note, the ones in yellow are where the PE parts are used. The door, as you can see right there. The light blue ones are all the PE parts. You have the window, part of the side view mirror, the headlights, and some of the warning lights right there. More details right here. You have the tail lights. Then, like I mentioned earlier, this is the detailed chassis right there. May not seem like much in the rendering, but in the instructions, there's quite a lot of work to be put into the chassis. The rubber tires, the fuel tank, leaf spring suspension, and the equipment. Here you have the color callouts and the markings for the HIMARS. For this one, it is in medium gray green. Not a lot of tactical markings that you would see, except for some here up the front and at the back. And then for this one, it's in desert tan, although the cartridge itself is in green. And then for the cartridge, there are particular markings, so you do have to take note of that. And for the instruction manual, it's relatively thick, as I mentioned earlier. a lot of work is put into detailing the chassis. And on some occasions you would see these ones right here, no cement, then no cement, as I think Trumpeter intends them to be somewhat workable. More assembly for the chassis, and it's only up to step 5 that you somewhat divert to the exterior parts. After the tires, then the assembly of the chassis, the mounting point for the rocket launcher, instruments and external tanks, the equipment, and then when you get here, this is where you come across the assembly of the cabin interior and all other associated parts. And you have the cabin right there, the clear parts, and all other detailings. Then next you have the launcher right there, the launcher pad, the unit itself, the assembly, and then how it all fits together, and also the loading system for it. And overall, how you attach them all together. And that's it for this HIMARS kit review. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a thumbs up. But if you didn't, leave a thumbs down. And let me know down in the comments below what you think of this kit or any feedback in general. And as always, keep safe. Thanks for watching. And until next time, goodbye.